Hello, and welcome to the eTech podcast with me, your host, Ryan Morn. I have been involved in the development of electrified vehicles and machines since 2005 as an engineer and a business leader. This podcast is the product of my passion for electric and autonomous vehicle technology. I'm here to share knowledge from some of the world's leading experts, as well as my own insights. Join me as we accelerate the transition to cleaner, safer and smarter vehicles and grow the industry around the world. Today we've got a really interesting podcast for you, I hope, with a guy who I've known for a lot of years. This chap's called Matthew Lumsden. He's the CEO of a business called Connected Energy. And Matthew's going to tell us all about what he has done, how he got to where he is, and also about what Connected Energy do in the field of battery storage systems. So without further ado, we'll get on to today's podcast. So Matthew, can you just tell me a bit about you and your background? Where did you come from?
Okay, so my background's from having spent the last 10 to 15 years in clean tech, I suppose. Prior to 2010, focusing very much on renewables, wind farm development from a consultancy perspective.
Right.
So looking at consenting for wind farms and PV and stuff. But then also, I guess, critically to what I'm doing now, working very much on the grid connection side. So looking at the implications of installing PV, ground source heat, onshore wind, etc. And more recently, obviously got into electric vehicles in 2010 through the sort of the growth of the sector in the northeast. And then more recently, since then, I guess, focusing very much on the battery side and storage.
And that's where so Connected Energy is your business, and that's what that business does. It's a grid storage business.
So we kind of formed Connected Energy in 2010-ish, and have really spent the last few years developing stationary energy storage systems that use second life batteries from electric vehicles.
Right.
So we've kind of been through a development phase and now focusing on commercial sales.
You're literally getting batteries that are past their sort of useful life in a car, and you're taking that and then you repackage that somehow and use it for grid storage.
So we have developed a control system that enables us to use second life electric vehicle batteries as they are, so they're not interfered with in any way. We take them directly from the manufacturer. So those are batteries that have been partially degraded because they've been used in the vehicle for a period,
right,
but have still got a substantial useful life left in them. So our system, as you say, we connect up those batteries, package them, and we have a stationary storage system.
So you must put an awful lot of them together in a big box or a container or something.
Yeah, so that's the sophistication of our within our IP. So we're able to talk to a large number of battery management systems for batteries that are all at different levels of degradation, or slightly different, or operating in slightly different voltage ranges, and to treat those as individual entities, but all aggregated as one storage system.
So basically like the ultimate repurposing, recycling of those batteries.
It's as good as it gets, yeah.
It's a big challenge, isn't it? I mean, it's often the sort of the people who are against electric vehicles always bring up this. Well, what happens to the batteries?
Yeah.
And so you're solving that problem. You're not even recycling them or chopping them up or anything. You're doing something useful with them.
Yeah. So we effectively double the life of the battery, really.
Right.
So we obviously double the useful life. Therefore, we double the value of the embedded materials, the embedded carbon, etc. in it, and obviously that energy storage is typically used to facilitate the penetration of renewables on the grid. So we're also helping to decarbonise the grid as well.
That's the market. What are those batteries used for? What's a grid storage battery used for?
So a number of applications. I mean, there's an increasing concern in the commercial business community about resilience.
Right.
So often they're used to provide a backup power supply. If people are expanding their sites, then they might have peak loads that are precluded by their connection. So people use storage to level off those loads. But then also you can, optimize on-site renewables,
right,
or you can do arbitrage, or you can provide services to the grid.
Right.
And I suppose the key thing is to make energy storage pay for itself. You have to build that value stack and capitalize on as many of those value streams as possible.
Okay. And is it, because one of the other electric vehicle things is always grid capacity.
Yeah.
So I guess your sort of battery systems help to provide grid capacity in some circumstances, so you can charge a lot of electric vehicles where maybe you couldn't have before because you simply didn't have the grid connection.
Yeah. So we've got a few systems, one in Belgium, one in Germany, both managing a really constrained connection. So they've got rapid chargers. And we actually control the rapid charger, so the rapid charger doesn't operate until we enable it to do so by providing the power.
Right.
And we're able to manage that peak load. But there's a situation there around charging, I suppose, electric cars. But we also think that there's a big opportunity there around buses. So if you're charging big fleets of electric buses, then you're going to have some big spikes.
Yeah.
So we think there's an opportunity to work with bus companies to provide the use of their second life batteries to help facilitate the infrastructure that they ultimately need to sell the buses. So there's a nice loop there as well.
That's something that we hear consistently, actually, from not just buses, trucks, and construction machinery, where you basically got a big pool of vehicles and machines in one place. And you don't want to use them all about the same sort of time, and you want to charge them all about the same sort of time. It's a problem, and particularly in cities where the grid's under a lot of stress anyway. It's quite difficult to do that, and it's been one of the big challenges for deploying a lot of electric buses in Europe. So in that case, you drop connected energy grid storage battery into the bus depot or the construction site, and that would allow multiple charge connections.
Yeah, so I think there's obviously different models. So some buses charge en route, others charge at a depot. So therefore, the location of the storage and the size of the system would vary. But ultimately, in city locations where you've got growing densities of population, so there's increasing load on the grid. Connection upgrades are expensive. A storage system is a good solution for providing that peak shaving. But there's also another issue that typically a bus contract is for a fixed period of time.
Yeah.
So if you get a 5-year contract to run an electric bus, you might not want to spend a huge amount on a grid connection.
Right.
Which is obviously a permanent installation. So actually storage provides you with a potentially temporary solution that you could move to another route at some point. So
I hadn't thought about that, yeah.
There's quite a nice...
On a construction site, that's
exactly.
That's fascinating, yeah. So you've got the sort of temporary need for with a bus operation, which is a longer term temporary, or construction site, which is you're in and out and you don't want to put a huge grid connection in. Yeah. Wow. And is that your typical sort of customer? Who buys? Is it the power companies buying these, or is it operators?
So it's a mix. So there tends to be a range of customers, from those who are using the storage system to generate revenue, in which case it tends to be industrial and commercial people who have a grid connection. They have a load, fairly consistent large load on site, and we can fluctuate the storage system to provide grid services, and they can generate a revenue. Yeah. But the other section of customers is people who have a problem. Yeah. And that might be peak load, it might be resilience issue or whatever. So and those are quite interesting because we're able to sort of provide niche solutions. So exactly the point you just mentioned, construction sites. We've got an inquiry about at the moment for people who require a lot of power for short periods on construction sites. Yeah. So a mobile storage system's attractive to them for that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's a big Because obviously you literally haven't built it yet. So
Exactly.
and if you are building it, you probably don't want to put in a huge pipe to run all your diggers and cranes and stuff. When it's only going to be offices and computers in the future.
Yeah, and the other option is of course generators. But in a city centre, you've got emissions constraints and you've got noise constraints. So energy storage solves both of those problems as well.
Yeah. Oh wow. So where I don't know if you're allowed to say or not, but where do your batteries come from? So which car manufacturers?
So we're working with Renault, Nissan, and Jaguar Land Rover at the moment.
All right. Okay.
So we've been working with Renault.
Just the small guys then. Wow. That's amazing.
So we started off with Renault, and operate systems with their Kangoo and their Fluence batteries.
Right.
And then we've got a system running at the moment which is using JLR's iPace batteries, which are quite interesting because they're very big and they're water cooled. So we've got different cooling systems obviously in there. But what we're trying to do is work with people who obviously A, have second life batteries available, but B, also develop international coverage so that we can provide solutions ultimately where the batteries are available, because the ultimate green solution is that you're sourcing local batteries, putting them in a system, and using them where the vehicles were.
Is availability of batteries a challenge, or are there plenty coming onto the second life market, or how's the supply?
Yeah, so there's I would say we're at a ramp up process, a period now, whereby a couple of years ago they were pretty few and far between, and over the next couple of years the volume will start to increase. So what we're finding is that the world is relatively new to energy storage anyway. So we're not only selling a new product, we're selling a product that has second life batteries in it, so it's a relatively slow sales process. So that's giving us time to work very closely, in particular with Renault, on the supply chain. So we're lining up our project pipeline with their battery availability and working between us to make sure that there's a parity between those two, so that we can ensure that we're able to have the batteries for the customers.
Right. And I mean, so I have to kind of ask, the big name in grid storage that springs to me is obviously the Tesla guys. And that's not second life batteries from Tesla, is it?
No, I don't think Tesla aren't committed to second life batteries, shall we say? But so they're
putting new ones on the grid.
They're putting new ones on the grid. Yeah, my understanding is that they recycle. They put their batteries straight into recycling.
Right. Okay.
But they've got a gigafactory that they need to keep busy. So
I guess potentially that's quite an advantage for you guys, in that you're sort of using a second life, upcycled product versus a new product. So
I mean, the benefit we have is that the batteries are low cost. They've actually been through a period of prolonged test period, so we know the batteries work. They're resilient. They're probably
good age, nicely aged.
Nicely aged, vintage. Also we use all of that IP that has been invested in them by the automotive companies. So they're probably some of the highest spec, safest batteries that you're going to get. And then obviously there's a low capital cost there, but also because the battery's lower cost, there's a lower cost of degradation. So they give you a greater degree of flexibility about how you use them as well. Over and above the sustainability benefit, they're commercially attractive in a number of different ways.
Wow. It must have taken. I mean, we know we develop BMSs, so they're complicated, but then you're dealing with lots of other people's BMSs and trying to make them all work together in unison. That must have taken quite some doing to develop the backend system to manage and control all of that.
Yeah, I'm not a techie person, so it took us a while, and there's been quite a few people working on it, but and it works, so I suppose that's good. But yeah, I mean, fundamentally, we took the decision that we have got to produce a product that is safe, If you're developing a second life energy storage system, you can't make a mistake. Because it's dangerous for the reputation, and also we want Renault, Nissan, Jaguar, Land Rover to be happy for them for us to say that we're working with them. So we took the view that we don't work on a battery, or we don't use a battery unless it's with the cooperation and collaboration of the OEM. So, we obviously get help from them in terms of the CAN protocols, etc. So, that fundamentally de-risks the process. And what we have now is a processor that we can effectively upload the language, the CAN protocol from that particular OEM. And then obviously there's some additional work, but we can control any different type of battery, and we can use different batteries in the same system.
Right. Wow. And I remember a while ago you were looking at some like alternate battery technologies. Is that still on your?
It is. Yeah. I can't say who that's with, but we are using our controller to operate non-lithium ion batteries as well.
Right.
So it's got a degree of versatility about it, which means that it's quite a robust controller, particularly for sort of INC type applications.
Right, and that gives you, I guess, an even wider range of potential battery systems. Is that because we've heard quite a lot of stuff in the last couple of years about different batteries for grid storage, and there's been a few, I don't know, promised sort of Cinderella technologies or whatever you want to call them, but they never seem to kind of really materialise in practice. Do you see? What do you see the kind of best technology as being for grid storage? I guess second. Is there anything on the horizon that's particularly exciting?
I think there's effectively what we're doing is using existing technology. I think there's quite a long list of people developing new battery chemistries, etc. But as you rightly point out, they always seem to be longer in gestation than you hear. So I'm not aware of anything that's going to dramatically impact on the prevalence that lithium ion has at the moment.
Right.
There will obviously be variations of the lithium ion technology, the lithium technology, but that seems to be the core technology at the moment.
Right.
But then, it takes me back to doing renewables, and people used to say, well, we'll never provide all of our energy with wind turbines. Well, no, we won't, but they'll be part of the solution. So, I think there'll be lithium-ion batteries, there'll be flow batteries, there'll be flywheels, etc. And part of what we're saying actually is that second life batteries are a different asset class again. So they have slightly different characteristics to new lithium ion. They have slightly different characteristics to flow batteries. Look at them slightly differently, and I think we'll get a range of different storage technologies that will provide different scales of storage, different durations, different power. Right,
because it does seem like from what I've seen recently, the grid storage market, it looks like it's about to really explode. The demand for grid stabilization, for microgrids, all the applications you talked about before. It kind of feels like one of those things where everyone's ignored it for a really, really long time, because it's not a new concept. And you've been working on this.
I've been, yes, as long as I care to remember.
A few years along the way, but you just see these. It's a bit like with wind power, where it was really expensive, but now it's a no-brainer. It's the cheapest form of energy generation. With the grid storage stuff, you just keep seeing these amazing stories where company X or power company Y or state somewhere else has implemented it. It's fixed all their problems, and it's earned tens of millions of dollars in quite a short period of time. And it just feels like there's more and more and more of those happening with the advent, I guess, of more renewables on the grid and all these sort of peaky electrical demand.
I suppose the encouraging thing is that if you talk to an engineer, they say that the network needs storage. I think the challenge at the moment is that if you I'm not sure whether it's been changed, but up until very recently, energy storage wasn't actually recognised as an asset class in terms of the way the grid operates. And I think the challenge we have at the moment is that the markets aren't geared towards energy storage. So it's quite volatile at the moment. So you hear about big spurts of growth, and then all of a sudden the market changes and the business cases become difficult again.
Right.
So it's quite volatile, and energy storage in the UK at the moment is pretty challenging to put together a business case.
Right. Yeah.
But the expectation is that the revenue stack will start to build up again, and that will improve the business. I mean, to be honest, I took comfort, having been through the renewables thing. I took comfort from the fact that storage, didn't have a subsidy.
Right.
So I felt that we were moving into a market which was real.
Yeah.
But it's actually quite a dynamic market, so it's still not particularly easy to operate in. But there are different market mechanisms in different parts of the world where different value streams prevail, and some of them are pretty successfully operational now, and some are sort of coming to the fore. So I think we just have to wait for that market to mature for storage to then sort of roll out in the scale we expect.
That's these things are big assets, right? It's not like a sort of 10 grand investment.
No.
There you go. You've got
it varies, but yeah. So the kind of systems that you're seeing installed on the transmission system are 100 megawatts, so big systems.
Right.
But at the same time, as an INC scale, people are installing 50 kilowatt type systems. So there's a pretty significant level of diversity there.
Right. Okay. Cool. So what's the for connected energy this year? What's your most exciting? What are you excited about this?
What are we excited about? So we've because our batteries are relatively low cost. And therefore our cost advantage largely sits in the batteries, in the whole system.
Yeah.
We become more competitive as our systems get larger. So this year's been exciting because we're just in the process of testing some 1.2 megawatt systems, and those are effectively modules into bigger systems. So we're due to announce a project probably in the next couple of months, which will probably be up to 20 megawatts, which will really start to scale things up.
Yeah.
And some other developments as well. So, the exciting thing for us is that these bigger projects enable us to really link up the whole supply chain and work on the logistics with our, battery supply partners. And, we're able to now provide third-party finance around systems. So that's good. That liberates the sale.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to get up to a bigger scale where things become more meaningful in terms of expanding the business. So, and then it's good that we're sort of covering some quite good geographies. So we're putting systems in the Netherlands, Belgium, negotiating a project in France and Hong Kong at the moment. So that sort of internationalisation is quite exciting. So it's fun. It's a fun place to be.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, great. Thanks very much for taking the time to come in and talk about what you do. That's it's been really interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's an exciting place to be. Cheers.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the podcast today. I hope you found that interesting. If there's anything that you'd like to know about connected energy or about grid storage, send us an email or leave a comment below and someone will get back to you. As ever, if you've enjoyed today's podcast, please leave us a comment and a rating or a like, depending on which platform you're listening on. It really helps. It helps us reach out to more people because it pushes us up the rankings on the different podcast platforms. So really appreciate it if you could just take the time to leave us a rating, a comment, or hit like. That would mean the world to me. That's all we've got time for today, and we'll be back to you soon with another interesting electrification podcast.